As the crew advanced towards the horizon, they noticed a strange mist creeping along the ground, obscuring their vision. They activated their environmental senses and analyzed the air. What they found sent shivers down their spines. The air was not only toxic but also filled with unknown organisms. The crew quickly put on the protective gear, not wanting to take any chances. As they moved deeper into the mist, they began to see strange shapes moving in the shadows. They heard guttural noises that made their blood run cold. Suddenly, one of the crew members let out a blood-curdling scream. The others rushed to his side, only to find that he had been attacked by a grotesque creature. The creature was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It had 6 legs, razor-sharp claws, and teeth the size of daggers. The crew quickly realized that they were not alone on this planet, and that they were in grave danger. They activated their weapons and prepared to defend themselves against whatever horrors lay ahead. As they moved forward, they encountered more and more of these creatures. They fought valiantly, but it was clear that they were vastly outnumbered. The crew realized that they were in over their heads and needed to retreat. They made their way back to the ship as quickly as they could, their hearts pounding with fear. As they took off and left the planet behind, the crew knew that they had experienced a horror that no one should ever have to face. They wondered what other terrors lay in wait in the vast expanse of space, and whether they would ever be ready to face them. As they got closer to the structure, the crew's fear grew. The structure was made of a dark, obsidian-like material that seemed to absorb all light. Strange symbols and glyphs adorned the walls, carved with precision that could only be accomplished by a highly advanced civilization. The crew entered the structure cautiously, their weapons at the ready. They moved through the dark corridors, searching for any signs of life or answers as to what this structure could be. As they progressed deeper, they began to hear faint whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. The whispers grew louder as they approached a large chamber. The chamber was dimly lit, and the crew could barely make out what was in front of them. They saw a large, grotesque figure sitting on a throne in the center of the room. The figure was covered in a black cloak, with long, bony fingers that seemed to stretch out into the shadows. The crew approached the figure, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, the figure spoke in a deep, raspy voice. "And Quat, you have trespassed on my planet. What is your purpose here?" And Quat, the crew explained that they were explorers, searching for signs of life. The figure seemed amused by their answer and let out a sinister laugh. "And Quat, you have found what you were looking for, and Quat," the figure said. "And Quat, but you have also found something else. Something that should have remained hidden. And Quat." The figure stood up, revealing its full form. It was a towering, hulking beast with tentacles for arms, and a mouth filled with razor-sharp teeth. The crew realized that they were in grave danger and began to fire their weapons. The creature laughed at their feeble attempts to harm it. It swatted them aside with ease, throwing them across the room like ragdolls. The crew realized that they were outmatched and began to retreat. As they fled the structure, they saw more of the creatures emerging from the shadows. They fought their way through the horde, knowing that their lives were on the line. Finally, they made it back to their ship and took off, leaving the planet behind. The crew knew that they had experienced a horror unlike anything they had ever encountered before. They realized that there were beings in the universe that were far more advanced and dangerous than they had ever imagined. They wondered what other terrors lay ahead on their journey through the stars. The crew could see the creatures huddled together in the dimly lit room. The creatures were covered in slimy scales and had rows of razor-sharp teeth. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly intelligence, and the crew could feel their malevolent presence even from a distance. The crew quickly realized that they had stumbled upon a laboratory of some sort. They could see strange machines and equipment scattered throughout the room, all of it covered in the same slimy substance that coated the creatures. As they cautiously approached the creatures, they noticed that they were being watched by several of the creatures. The creatures hissed and growled, clearly agitated by the presence of the crew. Suddenly, one of the creatures lunged at the crew. With blinding speed, the crew was caught off guard and struggled to defend themselves against the creature's attacks. The creature was incredibly strong, and its claws were sharp enough to cut through their armor. The crew quickly realized that they were outmatched and needed to retreat. They made a run for the exit, firing their weapons at the creatures as they went. The creatures pursued them relentlessly, hissing and growling all the while. As they made it outside, the crew saw a large ship descending from the sky. The ship landed nearby, and a group of heavily armed soldiers emerged. The soldiers quickly engaged the creatures in battle, using advanced weaponry to take them down. The creatures fought fiercely, but they were no match for the soldiers' superior firepower. After the battle, the soldiers approached the crew and introduced themselves as members of a highly advanced alien civilization. They explained that they had been tracking the creatures for some time and were relieved to have finally found their lair. The crew was stunned by what they had witnessed. They had never imagined that such creatures could exist in the universe. They realized that they were not alone in their journey through the stars, and that there were beings out there that were far more advanced and dangerous than they had ever imagined. The soldiers offered to take the crew under their protection and show them the wonders of their civilization. The crew agreed, grateful for the opportunity to learn more about the universe and the creatures that called it home. They knew that their journey had only just begun, and that there were many more horrors and wonders to discover along the way. The crew could hardly believe what they were seeing. The creature was easily 10 times the size of the other creatures they had encountered, and its body was covered in a thick, armored hide. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly intelligence, and its jaws were large enough to swallow a man whole. As they watched in horror, the creature let out a deafening roar and began pursuing their ship. The crew frantically tried to outmaneuver the creature, but it was too fast and too agile for them. The creature launched itself at the ship, slamming into the hull with incredible force. The crew could hear the metal groaning under the impact, and they knew that the creature could easily tear the ship apart with its bare hands. As they struggled to keep the ship aloft, the crew frantically searched for a way to escape. They knew that they couldn't outrun the creature, and their weapons were useless against its thick hide. Just as all hope seemed lost, the crew spotted a nearby asteroid field. They quickly realized that they could use the asteroids to their advantage, using them to evade the creature and confuse its tracking systems. The crew flew into the asteroid field, dodging and weaving between the massive rocks. The creature followed, but it was unable to keep up with the ship's erratic movements. After several tense minutes, the creature finally gave up the chase and retreated back to the planet. The crew breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that they had narrowly escaped the horror of Alpha Centauri. As they continued their journey through the stars, the crew reflected on the dangers and wonders of the universe. They knew that there were countless dangers out there, but they also knew that there were wonders beyond their wildest imaginations. And so, they pressed on, eager to explore the mysteries of the cosmos and discover what other horrors and wonders awaited them along the way. Determined to prevent the horror of Alpha Centauri from spreading, the crew took matters into their own hands. They gathered their resources and recruited a team of like-minded individuals to help them fight against the impending danger. Together, they developed a plan to stop the creatures from Alpha Centauri, knowing that they had to act quickly before it was too late. The crew and their team set out to build a weapon that could destroy the creatures. They worked tirelessly day and night, putting all their skills and knowledge to use. After weeks of hard work, they finally succeeded. They had created a weapon that was powerful enough to destroy the creatures and put an end to the horror of Alpha Centauri. The crew and their team set out to the planet, determined to put an end to the threat once and for all. They landed on the planet and made their way towards the structure where the creatures resided. As they entered the structure, they could hear the creatures growling and snarling in the distance. But the crew stood firm, knowing that they had the means to stop them. The battle was fierce, with the creatures putting up a formidable fight. But the crew and their team were determined, and they fought with all their might. In the end, they emerged victorious. The creatures were destroyed, and the horror of Alpha Centauri was finally put to rest. The crew returned to their home planet, hailed as heroes for their bravery and determination. The authorities finally acknowledged the truth of their story, and they were lauded for their efforts in saving the galaxy from a terrible fate. But the crew knew that their work was not yet done. There were still other dangers out there in the cosmos, waiting to be discovered and conquered. And so, they set out once again, ready to face whatever horrors and wonders lay ahead. The crew knew that time was of the essence. They raced back to Alpha Centauri, their ship hurtling through the vast expanse of space. As they approached the planet, they could see the devastation that the horror had wrought. The landscape was barren and desolate, and the air was thick with the stench of death. But the crew did not falter. They knew that they had to press on. No matter what they encountered. They landed their ship near the structure where they had previously encountered the creatures. The crew armed themselves with their weapons and made their way towards the entrance. As they entered the building, they could hear the creatures growling and snarling in the distance. But the crew did not waver. They were determined to face the horror head on. The battle was fierce, with the creatures putting up an even greater fight than before. The crew fought with all their might, determined to save their home planet. But just as it seemed like they were gaining the upper hand, the horror revealed its true form. It was a massive, grotesque creature, unlike anything they had ever seen before. The crew was taken aback, but they did not give up. They fought with renewed vigor, hoping to defeat the creature and save their planet. After what seemed like an eternity, the creature finally fell. The crew let out a sigh of relief, knowing that they had accomplished their mission. But their relief was short-lived. The planet was still in ruins, and it would take years to rebuild what had been lost. The crew returned to their home planet, saddened by the loss of the beloved Alpha Centauri. But they also knew that they had done everything they could to save it. They were hailed as heroes once again, and their bravery and determination inspired countless others to take up the mantle of protecting their galaxy. And so, the crew continued their journey through the stars, ready to face whatever horrors and wonders lay ahead. They knew that there would always be dangers out there, waiting to be conquered. But they also knew that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. And so, they set off into the unknown, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The crew continued to explore the galaxy, encountering new planets and civilizations. They made many new discoveries and encountered new challenges along the way. But even as they journeyed through the stars, the memory of Alpha Centauri remained with them. They never forgot the horror they had faced, and the sacrifices they had made to save their home planet. As time passed, the crew grew older and wiser. They trained new generations of space explorers, passing on their knowledge and experiences. And then, one day, they received a transmission from a distant planet. It was a distress signal, coming from a planet that was facing its own horror. The crew knew that they had to help. They assembled a team of their best and brightest, and set off towards the planet. As they descended towards the unknown world, they could feel a sense of unease in the air. The planet was filled with a strange and eerie energy, just like Alpha Centauri. The crew knew that they were in for a tough fight. But they were determined to save this planet, just as they had saved their own. And so, the crew stepped out of their ship and into the unknown, ready to face whatever horrors lay ahead. The future was uncertain, but they knew that they had each other. The crew set off towards the horizon, ready to face the unknown once again. And as they journeyed through the stars, they knew that they would continue to face new challenges and new horrors, but they were ready for whatever lay ahead. The end of this story is open, leaving it up to the imagination of the reader to decide what challenges the crew will face next, and whether they will be successful in their quest to save yet another planet from the horrors that lurk in the vast expanse of space.